freshman in high school, I saw my very first 3D printer, and it was pretty amazing because when I walked into my engineering class, I saw this big bulky machine that was put up in the corner of the room, and it kind of resembled a refrigerator. So later on in the school year, after learning the required software to actually 3D model and print it, we were able to use it later on in the semester. And the reason that it's important for college students to learn the capabilities of 3D printing is because it's still an evolving technology today, and it can be a valuable resource for things such as presentations you may have in the future. So today in my speech, I'm going to explain to you the capabilities of 3D printing. First, I'm going to discuss how it works. Second, I'm going to discuss how it's being used in classrooms to help students with disabilities. And third, I'm going to explain the impact that it's currently having on the automotive industry. So the way that 3D printing works is that it prints layers down individually, layer by layer by layer, in a range of 100 to 400 micrometers. So it's really tiny, but that's the way it works. So they're placing down these layers to build up from the bottom up. Like, it doesn't just pop out of nowhere, right? And the most common material used for 3D printing is something that's called A910. And back in my high school, we used something similar to that, but it kind of resembles like a soft plastic, kind of. And so that's what the most common use for the material was. But you can also use, if you want to like spend more money in a way, you don't have to go with that kind of soft plastic. It can be for whatever need you want. So you can get something to print more of like a shiny metallic color, or any color that you would like. So it can either be from soft, expensive, or cheap, or whatever you can afford. So the way that it's being used in the classroom to help people with disabilities, before I get into that, I just want to give a short story about something that I experienced and saw while I was a senior in high school. In my engineering class, there was a group of students that got together and actually 3D printed a sleeve that can be put over a girl whose arm she didn't have a lot of mobility with. So these kids in my class got together and they actually 3D printed sleeves that she can put over her hand to help with her mobility and give her better access to move. So just that technology in itself is something that if these high school students can put together, it can only lead for what scientists and bigger people can lead for the future. But there's some students or teachers of students with disabilities such as visual impairments. What they do is they 3D print these objects, and as they're explaining what the object is, they're giving it to them in their hands, so the people that are blind or visually impaired, they can feel it out. So it gives them a better understanding of what something may actually look like instead of just hearing it from their ears. And another way that I mentioned for presentation-wise, so say you're giving a presentation, because in my high school, in my engineering class, we had to do a lot of these presentations about different boats and airplanes. So instead of just saying, hey, this is what I'm talking about on the screen, you can say, hey, this is what I'm talking about, and I have it in my hands. So it's something that you can physically pass around the classroom and say, and you can look at it all the way around 3D, so you're not just staring at the screen the entire time. And lastly, the way that it's making its impact on the automotive industry is one of the biggest corporations that's taking advantage of this is Mercedes-Benz trucks. They're 3D printing parts that can be put inside like the panels on the dashboard and stuff like that. They're 3D printing these materials. And the reason that they're doing that is it's really cheap and or inexpensive, I should say. So it's inexpensive, and you can mass produce a lot of them because of how quick it is. And something that's led into the future for this is how, what was I gonna say? Oh, Local Motors, a company, Local Motors is actually allowing people, it's a small place outside of Washington, D.C. Local Motors is allowing people to actually design their own shells of cars, and they're actually allowing you to 3D print them. So you can go to this place and they'll design an entire car for you. You can pick from their wide database, and you can design it. Now, although the article that I read this from says that 3D printed cars being allowed on the highways and stuff like that is still a long way from now, you're still able to produce these cars that you can actually drive. They're just not street legal. So in this speech, I mentioned how it's being used in classrooms, how it works, and the outlook for the future. And one thing that I saw and experienced from my freshman year, this big bulky machine that I saw in my classroom, later turned into 4 really slim, and it's like a box kind of. It's just poles on each side, a 3D box just like that. So it turned in from this big, massive, bulky machine to just 4 slim, lightweight things that you can really carry with your hands. So that concludes my speech.